All right. I think we're live. I should be checking this stuff. I'm going to do that right now. But
Actually have my
yeah,
YouTube
the
up.
first ever Chicago Sports Bums live podcast. This is exciting. Welcome, Chris. Chris King is with me, the fresh out of the oven brother-in-law.
Eh,
Hot
2 weeks at this point, just like
2 weeks. That was, yep, we're live. All right. So yeah, obviously I should say congratulations, but I was there, so that was fun.
eh.
All right. So
thank you for having me on.
no problem. For those that don't know, like I said, Chris is my brother-in-law, big time soccer fan. Give us a rundown of your fandom because it's kind of interesting where your allegiances lie.
Yeah, so I mean, I cheer for the Fire, of course. Like living in Chicago, try to go to as many games as I can. But I think the team I watch the most and I'm the most into is Club Leon. They're a Liga MX team, the best Liga MX team right now. I'll say it. We went to a game in Leon, and it was probably the most intense, crazy sports thing I've ever been to. I've been to Bears games, I've been to Cubs games, Sox games, and it was nuts. It was a Champions League game, probably the most dramatic and overplayed thing I've ever seen. And then otherwise, I watch a lot of Köln, big German soccer community in Chicago, and Barca every now and then.
I purposely left Barca Real Madrid off the agenda. That was a shellacking. I got a couple of DMs in my mentions, and I said no comment. So we won't be talking about that. Obviously, big rivalry, not so great result if you're a Madrid fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, for those that don't know, obviously, you guys know me as the Chicago sports bum, Bears, White Sox, but my ride or die has always been the United States men's national team. And we don't get to talk about that much during our regular broadcasts because obviously we're the Chicago sports bums. It's Bears, White Sox, Blackhawks, Bulls, all of that stuff. But yeah, man, I ride or die with the men's national team more than anybody. Other than that, same thing, Fire. I grew up a Chivas fan because of my father in Guadalajara, but realistically, I don't get to watch many Liga MX games anymore. It used to be every Sunday, not so much anymore. But yeah, other than that, I'm excited to get into the weeds. We do this once a year. Billy, we mentioned it. Maybe we do this a little bit more than our annual broadcast or our annual podcast. Try to get a couple more of these in. But for now, I'm excited to just talk soccer for once and not, the McCaskies and Reinsdorfs of the world.
I mean, you've got Mansueto, the only good owner in Chicago right now.
So let's just get right into it with the Chicago Fire because I've been highly critical of them for the last decade plus. Realistically, I was the one complaining about Mansueto. I was complaining about the Fire, and rightfully so. But it seems like tides are turning. Obviously, this season with Ezra Hendrickson and everything going on, kind of like a rebuild, retool. Off to their best start in since 2009.
Yep.
2-0-2, and it's exciting times. I haven't missed a game yet. Last night's game I watched on replay, but it seems like tides are turning, at least for now. I don't want to sound like the eternal optimist, like old school Cubs fans, where it's like, this is the year, but at least they're in the right direction, right?
Yeah, I mean, worst comes to worst, I feel like this season ends up like the 2003 Cubs, and we make it and then just absolutely shit the bed, which is great because we've only made the playoffs, I think, 3 times since 2010. I mean, the team finally looks like they can shut down games. Like you saw it in DC, you saw it in Kansas City. Like the defense, they could defend, and that was the biggest issue the last 2 seasons. We go up 1 or 2-0 and just get absolutely shellacked the last 15 minutes. And it would just be completely incompetent and terrible. It helps that we've got Gaga. We developed good talent. I think Shihos, from Köln, probably our best signing of the offseason. I know we have Shaqiri.
He's been awesome.
But you're spending $1 million on a guy who's not a DP and he knows where to be. He knows how to play the ball. He's a great captain. I'm just really optimistic, and I think we could make a playoff push. I don't know if we win the cup. I don't know if we win an Open Cup, but I think like getting a round or two into the like playoffs is very likely.
So yeah, that's realistically that should be the expectations. Obviously, it's a year one under the new regime. Um, Anything more than a playoff spot is like a bonus. But that's what we should be gunning for, especially with the start, and especially like you said with this defense. It was interesting what Ezra Hendrickson said in his introductory press conference, where he was saying like, "We want to play fun soccer. We want to play a flashy style of soccer." And realistically, that's what they haven't been doing that, but they've been playing fundamentally sound soccer. And that's all I've been asking for a long time. Like you mentioned, we got a stud of a goalie. That kid is, I mean, he's a star. I was going to say he's a star in the making, but he's already a star. So Gaga is a star. And then their defense has been, I mean, retooled and revamped. And like you said, Gijos, and it's just like they're playing smart, fundamental soccer. It's not flashy, but I'm not asking for flashy now. I mean, we've been bad for a decade. I just want wins. I want points, and getting off to this start is a great start. I do think to really contend with these top tier MLS teams, they're still missing someone that could stretch the field, someone with speed up top. I know Kasper Javilko got off the schneid and had a good game. You could argue that both of those shots should have been saved, and maybe he doesn't get that brace. But I mean, goal's a goal, however you count it. So I like him. I think he lacks pace, and I think that's what they are missing on the Fire. I know what May 1st we get Heido Torres in. He should help with the pace problem, but they're still missing someone that could stretch the field. But that's something you get, you know, after the All-Star break and or even next year. You know, this is year one of the start of a rebuild. But yeah, man, it's exciting. And we haven't even talked about Shaqiri. He's been good. He's been awesome. What's shocked me about Shaqiri so far is that he's played all 4 games, all 90 minutes. You know, the reports coming out of Europe was like he's out of shape and he just doesn't train as hard anymore and stuff like that. And that's what I was expecting, you know, him getting subbed off. But the fact that he's been playing 90 minutes plus and he's been effective. Before the PK yesterday, he's just one of these guys that like you need the veteran presence that like, you know, he doesn't panic. He knows what to do with the ball at every situation. And yeah, man, it's just exciting. It's just exciting to see what the future holds for this team after so many years of misery.
Yeah. I mean, even with Shaqiri, this is his 4th game in the league. Like it's like a huge jump. I think that's a big deal because I think you give him once he gets into this mid-season form, if he can keep up 90 and like I think he can make up a lot for like where we can't stretch the field because he's very good in tight situations, which is not like a big MLS like thing I see a lot. Like I think that's an issue with MLS, but
yeah, so I've got some like some good and bad of the season so far. We've got, I mean, 4 games in, they have not lost a game, so that's the good. But just player wise, I think 18-year-old Brian Gutierrez yesterday he comes on. I mean, he's been coming on as super sub. He is so good for his age. He's got awareness that most people that are 18-year-olds don't have, especially in the MLS. You know, a lot of the times MLS players, especially that young, they have the talent, they have like the speed and the skill and stuff like that, but they don't have the mental capacity to have the game slow down for them. And in that, the assist that he had to Jabilko, he slowed down the ball on purpose. He was out wide. He got the ball out wide. He beat the defender with speed and then cuts in and takes his time with the cross. And that's something you don't see a lot in the MLS. So that stood out to me right away. And he's like I said, he's been a super sub. So I've been really happy with Gutierrez. Obviously, Gaga is a stud as well. I'm excited about what is to come with Heido Torres. The one guy that has, to me, been so, and it's somebody I've been critical forever, is Gaston Jimenez. Before the season started, I was like, he doesn't deserve that DP slot. And the first 3 games were hit or miss. He had a really good game this last game, but it's someone that like I've seen it on the internet. He's been called lazy or sometimes like careless. He's been really careless with the ball at times. And when he loses it, he's one of these guys that instead of fighting back for it, maybe he throws a fit or, blames somebody else and stuff like that. But we're 4 games in. This last game, he had a really good game. What are your thoughts on Gaston and just the squad as a whole?
For me, I think Gaston looks a lot better than he has the last 2 seasons we had him.
Yeah.
It was abysmal. It could have a lot to do with coaching. And I think the way the team was set up. I saw some moments with him and Pineda, who they've moved from that center back role to that center defensive mid role.
Yeah.
And I think that he allows Pineda to push it forward a bit. And you can see, because Pineda has those moments where he can go forward and play the ball. And I think Pineda is a better defensive mid than Jimenez. I don't think Jimenez should be a DP, but I think that he's looking better. And maybe in a couple of weeks, if he can keep up what he did in this, for yesterday, I think it could be very promising. And maybe he is worth that DP eventually, because there were times last season and the other season where he'd have that 1 out of 5 games where he's just carrying the team.
Yeah,
but I'm being optimistic. I'm being overly optimistic for this.
He has the talent. He's shown that he has the talent, but it's just few and far between. And obviously, this season, it's 1 out of 3 games that really stood out to me. Is wow, that was good. But the other 3, it's either he's, gone missing for long periods of the game, or just sloppy games. So yeah, like you said, I don't think he deserves the DP spot. I was really critical about it, but if they could build on that it's an interesting, obviously it'd be another weapon to add, because right now it's been more 50-50. What are your thoughts on Hendrickson so far as a coach? Because I've been I was happy with the hiring from the beginning. I didn't want another outside hire from outside the MLS. I think to build a franchise, you need somebody that's, been a coach in this league for a long time and knows how to win in this league, because this league is very different than many other leagues. You see a lot of the times when league team hires a Mexican league or somebody from Europe, they're kind of caught off guard for a while. The fact that just, Hendrickson's just been hitting the ground running. I've been super happy with the hire, and I've been obviously really happy so far.
Yeah, very excited for him. Seeing him coming from Seattle, which is one of those teams that has been able, when they bring in a DP or they bring in a star player from outside, like Rui Diaz, they're able to instantly integrate him into the system and have them producing at the max level. I think that's been very good. I'm Wyatt Almsberg, who's been on defense all 4 games. Wyatt Almsberg is your standard MLS player who I think would sit on the bench for most teams. And the work rate on him is crazy. He didn't play like this the last few seasons. He didn't get much time to play, but I think Hendrickson just has this vision where he knows where to put the players and how to defend and also score goals and also run the MLS. Because I can't remember the exact number of trophies he has, but it's it's exciting. We have a winner.
We have a winner, and like you said, he knows tactically what to do to get results in the MLS. So yeah, man, I'm excited. Anything else about the Fire you wanna bring up? Oh, or I should mention, because I've seen it once again. Yesterday's game was kind of, it's shitty weather, but I know attendance was an issue again last game. It was 9,000 something. What are your thoughts on Soldier Field and the Fire as a whole? And what do you expect for attendance this year? Because like I said, the weather gets warmer, the team's winning, that'll draw the crowds. But realistically, I've been critical about them at Soldier. What were your thoughts?
I would really like to see them move into a soccer specific stadium.
Yeah.
Soldier is a nightmare to get to. I could get to Bridgeview from my apartment in Pilsen quicker than I can get to Soldier Field and be parked and everything. But I don't think the stadium will come until they can win. And we can see if Mansueto can also play Chicago politics to be able to put that stadium somewhere within the city, because I don't think it needs to, I just shouldn't go into a suburb. I think there's a lot of talk where people try to put it in the north suburbs. I see it a lot on Twitter, and there's so much space on the south side. There's so much of a soccer love on the south side that I think it should be here, and I think it's doable, but I don't see it happening for 5 years. And For me,
Yeah.
like I'll sit in the supporters section, so I'm always in a packed section, which always like helps. But like I'm not too worried about the supporters yet because if we keep winning, they'll come. Like, yeah.
And like I said, like obviously people complaining about yesterday's game. It was shit weather. Like it was rainy, it was cold. It was, I mean, I don't blame them for not wanting to go to the game. I wouldn't want to go to the game. But yeah, if they keep winning and the weather warms up, they'll come. But you mentioned the soccer specific stadium, especially a soccer specific stadium in the city. That's something that has to happen. And even if it's not, 5 years, if it's in the next decade, it would be awesome. Just something that's accessible by public transit and people that want to go to the games get to go to the games easy. Because like you said, like obviously it was different for me. I was 5 minutes from SeatGeek Toyota Park. So like that was one of the big reasons why we had season tickets for those years. But now getting to Soldier Field, I complain about it during Bears games all the time. Soldier Field's a nightmare. And for me to go to a soccer game, a fire game, I mean, you have to be asking a lot for me to get down there. Obviously this year with the way they're starting, I'm going to get my ass to a couple of games, especially, COVID restrictions are easing and everything else like that. But realistically, within the next decade, they have to get their own stadium.
Yeah, I think they will. Like, if they can become the successful franchise they've talked about for years, it's done. Like, the city will see the revenue. Mansueto has the money to build a stadium. Like, it's doable.
And I will say, too, Mansueto has been saying, he's been doing everything right. Obviously, the rebrand was kind of hit or miss, but he corrected it right away. He corrected it about as fast as he could have. Obviously, they had to wait for Adidas to give the okay and MLS to give the okay. But he said he wants to spend money. He's been trying to spend money, even if obviously, Shaqiri is a big money signing. I think third overall in the history of MLS or something like that.
I believe so, yeah.
But I can't complain about I complain about ownership in Chicago sports all the time. Obviously, Mansueto is different because he's only been here for a cup of coffee, and it seems like they want to do things the right way. So yeah, man, I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
So speaking about excitement, obviously you see my hat, you see my shirt, my jersey. I'm drinking the American Outlaws Dale's Pale Ale. I'm all in on the United States men's national team, but while I say this, I'm also nervous as hell, man. So I need you to talk me off the ledge. I think for people that don't know, I feel like I am always, obviously, I've been jaded for 38 years by Chicago sports and the United States men's national team. And I feel like you are more of the eternal optimist than I am, especially when it comes to soccer, especially when it comes to the national team. So talk me off the ledge because I have the banner up here. The United States men's national team need 5 points from 3 games. I've got the schedule up now. Obviously, big game Thursday at Mexico City against Mexico. And then Sunday the 27th against Panama in Orlando. And Wednesday the 30th at Costa Rica. So they need 5 points in 3 games, 2 of which are places they've never won in World Cup qualifying. So they've never taken 3 points in Costa Rica, and they've never taken 3 points in Mexico City for World Cup qualifying. Obviously, they've won in Mexico City of late, and that was historic, but World Cup qualifying is a different animal. So realistically, a win and 2 ties gets you in automatically. You don't have to worry about the playing game, anything like that. Talk me, how do we get there?
So I understand the worry. We have a lot of people hurt. We have Turner, Dest, McKinney, Richards, Adams with Leipzig right now is not in great form. Like none of our goalies who were Sean Johnson's our number 3 goalie who we brought in because of a hurt Turner is the only guy he's played more games than both Horvath and Stefan combined in regular season this year. And they've both been playing since the fall. But my thing is when you look at Mexico, Tata Martino has mismanaged that team. Worse than like he should have been. Like when people were screaming fire Berhalter, when we had like that one weird wonky streak, I was skeptical of it because I think he could take us to the World Cup, and I think we could get into out of group stage with him. Mexico can't do that with Tata. Like he has found a way to make Raul Jimenez, Chucky Lozano, and Tecatito at the front completely ineffective by putting like Saucedo on the back line or like playing these like 40, 50-year-old like defenders who can't do anything. Like Chaka, so bad. It's like
So bad.
it's awful. And I think we get a point out of Mexico City. I don't think we win. I think that it's gonna be tough. There's gonna be really scrappy soccer, like it always is. I think there's gonna be a lot of CONCACAF moments, but I think we get a point out of Mexico. I also think we get a point out of Costa Rica. This team, they play with like a certain level of knowledge of how important it is to make the World Cup. I think Berhalter instills that in them. He's been very successful as a coach. He's won most of his games, which is like something we ignore. I think he can go into Costa Rica and get a point, maybe 3. Panama, we're crushing Panama. Like, I just like
we need to crush Panama. Obviously, they're hot on our heels, and same thing, they're hot on Mexico's heels as well. I'm glad you brought up Tata Martino. I have this conversation with anybody that is fans of El Tri. I thought the biggest mistake Mexico made was not firing him after that fall and winter break. They had 2 chances to get rid of him, and they didn't. And they've been, obviously, rightfully so, suffering ever since. I don't think he's a very good coach. Obviously, the talent he had in Atlanta, it was almost like you can't mismanage that, especially for an MLS team. You know, like they were just so much better at the time that they won their championship than anybody else. And World Cup qualifying is a different animal. World Cup qualifying in CONCACAF is a completely different animal. There's things that you expect to happen that just don't happen. There's, injuries, refs, the lack of VAR in 2022. It's just like a lot of things that you just don't expect and you're not accustomed to. So yeah, I really do think Mexico's in bad shape with Tata at the helm. But it's still a rivalry game. It's still Mexico, United States at Mexico City. Realistically, I'll be happy with a point there. Obviously, we have the talent to win. I think if everyone's healthy, I really feel confident about it. Obviously, you just mentioned a bunch of injuries. We mentioned pre-show. Brendan Aronson took a knock yesterday. He's still traveling with the team. We don't know how much he'll be playing. But realistically, like you said, we control our own destiny. And what scares me is we controlled our own destiny 4 years ago. And I never thought what happened would happen. And I just little by little, like the little bit of doubt creeps into me. And it's like, am I going to get hurt again? I don't think it's going to happen. I think we have too much talent for that to happen. And I have been critical. But realistically, I mean, we have too much talent to not qualify. But I will say, I'll bring it up now. We got the roster here with all the injuries. The biggest question, I think, at least for the men's national team, is who's playing up top as a forward. We've gone through qualifying and nobody really has stood out. I thought Pepe was going to be the guy, especially when he had that hot start. But for some reason, Greg Berhalter kind of shied away from him, and now he's not in as great of form. I got the roster up here. What stands out to you, and who do you think they go with as their striker?
Oh, yeah. So I really like Pepe. I think he's got a lot going on right now, especially being in Bundesliga side like Augsburg, where they're in the middle of a very brutal relegation battle where it is going to come down to the last game of the season to decide if they will be staying in Bundesliga 1. And I think him switching leagues was a big move. So I don't think he starts. I think we go with Jordan Pifat. And it's because I know it's Swiss league, but he's been tearing Swiss league up. He scored against Barcelona in the Champions League. He scored against Atalanta in the Champions League. The guy has played in big games and has performed in big games. And don't get me wrong, Young Boys isn't gonna get past Europa League. They're not designed to do that. It's a Swiss league team. But I think that the experience he has in these big games would be super well translated into a Costa Rica, a Panama, and a Mexico game. I don't expect him to score in Mexico, honestly. But to be able to put the pressure on, which he can do in these high pressure games, I think he's our guy. He's our striker for right now.
I do like PFOC, especially in Mexico. I think he's got the athleticism to give the Mexican team some trouble. They've always struggled with, like the big, fast, strong. I mean, everybody does, but they've always struggled with big, fast, tall, athletic guys. So I think realistically, you mentioned it, and Greg Berhalter mentioned it in like the pre-camp interview that PFOC looks like he'd be the guy. It'd be interesting. We saw, I mean, just yesterday, Jesus Ferreira had a hat trick, and for some reason, I've always liked when you, especially like hockey and stuff like that, you ride the hot hand because especially forwards, man, they're streaky. We all know it. You ride the hot hand until it doesn't work. So that hat trick yesterday kind of, just kind of pointed my antenna like, oh shit, maybe we get Jesus Ferreira on at Mexico City and see what happens. And obviously, if it doesn't work, you sub them out at half, you sub them out, 60th minute or so like that. But like whenever it comes to forwards, I always just think like, oh shit, like if you're hot, get in there, go in there and score goals.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good idea. Plus, he's got that FC Dallas experience. Like, they can't win the league, but they can carry the men's national team. So,
FC Dallas, man, I'll tell you, their development. I mean, we've like Weston McKennie. There's a litany of just players that their developmental is amazing. They can't win leagues for shit, but they develop players.
They sell
really, really good players. Who go the other thing, obviously. I really, really like Serginho Dest. The whole world does. Barca loves him. He hasn't been great for the United States men's national team. And half of it's bad luck. The other half is maybe just not used to the system Berhalter plays with. But him being hurt is a gigantic loss, especially in the Mexico City game. I'm interested to see how you think they lined up because realistically, I don't want to see Yedlin. It sounds like we're going to see Yedlin. He's got the experience. For some reason, it's just like, I just don't think he shows up in big games. Like Yedlin's fine, against Jamaica and Haiti and all these teams. But in big games, I don't know. And I like Yedlin as I liked him a lot when he was younger. Nowadays, not so much. But if we see him, you'll be seeing me complain on Twitter, as always, of Greg Berhalter.
I mean, so I think with Yedlin, I've been watching the Inter Miami games, and he hasn't been looking the best. He's been looking good. I think that he could play the Panama game. I think he'd do very well in Panama.
Exactly. Yes.
He's looking better because he's not sitting on the bench in Newcastle or at Galatasaray. I think he's getting the minutes he needs to be like the old Yedlin. But I think putting in a Reggie Cannon and then I don't even this is the tough part. It's they should have brought up Conrad De La Fuente. I think he would have been the guy.
I really do. I like De La Fuente.
Those Barca minutes.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Last question about roster specific stuff. Who starts in goal? Because realistically, we mentioned Sean Johnson. God, the eternal Sean Johnson. It's shocking that he's in this camp. We saw Zach Steffen play today, right? Earlier today. But Ethan Horvath has been playing relatively really good for Nottingham Forest. I think in his last, 5 games, they're 2-0. Oh, they just lost recently to Liverpool. But, I mean, obviously, Nottingham Forest, Liverpool is whatever. But
on one with Firmino today and stopped him. Firmino, no way not to score. And I think Horvath has the moments where he can do that, which makes me want to put him in the goal. But personally, I'm putting Sean Johnson in the goal.
No, you're crazy. I don't think he plays. He's the third goalie.
He doesn't play, but it might. I think Horvath should play. I don't think Steffen did not look good today.
I think Berhalter really likes Zach Steffen. I mean, that's been obvious. Even when Matt Turner was healthy and playing well, he still wanted to give Steffen minutes. But of the three, I think it's Ethan Horvath's job. Hopefully, he starts in Mexico and shows out. Or actually, hopefully he shows up in Mexico and he doesn't have a shot on goal. That would be better. But realistically, yes, I want to see Ethan Horvath in goal.
Yeah. I mean, I think Horvath will do a good job. I won't pitch Sean Johnson too much because personally I think that I want to see somebody who played in Chicago do very well. He should have brought Gaga personally. Like
I mean, we keep talking about it. He's the future. Obviously,
yeah.
he's 17, a little young, but he's been awesome. And I think I always like when, especially in goal, if he's not playing, if they're not going to start, I'd rather have a young goalie in camp learning as opposed to a Sean Johnson where he's been around the block. You know, he's not going to lead you anywhere near the next, 2-3 World Cups. He's probably retiring by the end, right before we get to Qatar in December.
Yeah.
So realistically, it would be cool to see Gaga or just another young keeper in goal as the third goalie. You know, he's not going to get any minutes, but get the experience traveling, get the experience with the atmosphere of CONCACAF stadiums and stuff like that. But yeah, I think Horvath is the guy. Any other? Do you want to talk about Christian Pulisic? Obviously, he was in a slump. You've been critical on him, especially on Twitter. Of not recently, but he wasn't good for a little bit, especially both national team and Chelsea. But he's rounding into form again. He's been playing really, really well, especially in the Champions League. If the United States want to make noise, not only in qualifying, but in the World Cup, even, get out of the stage, they need their stars to play like stars. He is now. I'm really excited about it. But I know people are still finding ways to be critical, especially because Greg Berhalter just seems to not properly play him in his position, if you will. So I'm interested to see your thoughts. I saw a couple tweets. I'd say maybe like 3-4 months ago, you were a little critical about Christian.
I will admit I was hypercritical of Christian Pulisic. There was times where I think that he should have been on the bench to learn to like be better. I think now he's killing it. He's doing a lot better than he was. He deserves his starting spot. I think he looks good with Chelsea. The last few games with the men's national team, he's looked great. I think he's like 23, 24. And I think he's outgrown that phase where he's injured all of the time. Thank you, Scarlett.
I just got our first comment. I just noticed we're learning on the fly here. I just noticed we had a comment. It was 3 minutes ago. It just showed up. But yes, if people are watching, you guys want to comment, shoot questions, do all of that. But sorry to interrupt your Pulisic rant.
Oh, no. I think he's stepping up to this role that he needs to be. And I think his time with Tuchel in Chelsea has done that. I think that he got patted a bit too much on the back by the past coach, who I'm blanking on the name right now, who was like, I'm going to make you number 10. You're going to be our guy. And then he got hurt. And then he tried to continue to, they tried to get him to start again. And then he'd get hurt again. And when he started, he wasn't looking good because he was hurt all the time. I think Pulisic just came around. I think that he can be streaky, but that's what you expect out of a forward. But I think a forward of his caliber in 3 or 4 years, and this is looking at 2026, I think he carries it. I don't think he should wear the captain's armband. I think that Adams, McKinney should wear the captain's armband, but that's my personal reason. Every time there's a fight on the field, McKinney and Adams are the first two guys to back up the guy who's fighting, and Pulisic is a little bit slow to get over it. And that's, while there should not be fighting on the field, if you are the captain, you should be either pulling your guy off or throwing the next punch.
I do agree with you. Realistically, we've seen this a lot in soccer, at least in my time. You don't have to be the star. You don't have to be the captain and be the star at the same time. I do think Weston McKennie shows the fire it takes to be a captain. I still think he's a little immature to be the captain, at least now. Maybe in 4 years it's different, but we've seen the stuff with the, the COVID stuff where he basically got kicked off the team for being dumb. He's had a couple issues where he's shown immaturity, but realistically, you mentioned it. He could be, I really do think, and it seems like if he can stay healthy, Gio Reyna he's got the pedigree. His dad was captain, and it's the bloodline. If he can stay healthy, realistically, I think he could be a captain. He plays so composed for such a young age. And it's interesting. At least for the next 3 games, he's coming off of injury. He's playing again. I don't know how much we're going to see of him. I don't think he starts against Mexico. I do want to see him in the second half somehow. If it's 40 minutes, if even 30 minutes, I think when Gio Reyna's on the field and playing well, this team it gives you a different dynamic. And same thing with McKinney. Obviously, McKinney won't be here, but when McKinney, Reyna, and Pulisic are all on the field, it's like the holy triumvirate.
Yeah.
But Dest and the other guy I want to talk about, Yunus Musa. I love Yunus Musa. I love his game. I love the dynamic he brings to this national team. I think if we want to qualify, like we mentioned, 3 or 5 points in 3 games, Yunus Musa needs to be on the field. And Berhalter, he's another one of these guys where I feel like he should be getting more minutes than he does, especially when he first came on into camp. Like he really wasn't using him properly, and he didn't want to give him the run of time. I really like him. I want to see him play more, and hopefully he starts against Mexico, because I think he's another one of these guys that, like, when he's playing well, he could give Mexico fits.
Yeah. And I think that plays, like Berhalter said in the past, he wants guys that play minutes. And Musa isn't getting those minutes at Valencia. He's also 18, 19, or 20. So it's like, I don't expect him to be getting those minutes for another 2 or 3 years. And when he does, he will. Berhalter should be playing him all the time. He should he follows well. He's like a really good, like when McKinney goes to attack, he can hold it down. He can also attack. Like he's dynamic. He's quick.
That's where me and like Berhalter and I have, whenever there's a roster out, I'm complaining about it on Twitter. That's where me and him differ, where it's like, I understand wanting people in form and getting minutes and in shape and stuff like that, but he's playing at Valencia, and I'd rather just play your talented guys. I don't care if they're playing or not playing minutes. They're sitting on the bench in Europe. Yunus Musa is, like a top 6 talent on that team. I don't care if he's playing on the bench in Europe or he's coming off the bench or not even getting minutes. You play your talented guys, especially when we talk about, the Panamas of the world and the Costa Ricas of the world. Like, talent wins out time and time again. I don't care that, freaking Joe Blow from FC Dallas is playing minutes in the MLS. If you got Yunus Musa sitting on the bench at Valencia, that's better. Or at least I think it's better. And that's where me and Berhalter differ. It's like, I don't care about, like, if you're good, you're good. Like, talent wins out.
Yeah. And I think, personally, though, sometimes I think that the minutes in the MLS do matter. Because sometimes you get we have a lot of guys who play over in Europe, and a lot of people get really excited about it, but they're like on the bench in like some like second league Spanish team, or they're like, Pepe's a really bad example. I love Pepe, but you're in like a relegation battle somewhere. Or Josh Sargent. People love Josh Sargent.
Yeah.
Josh Sargent isn't doing anything in the Premier League, and he's going there. He's going to be in the second league. Like, he's going to be in the championship, like, by the end of this year. Like, Norwich isn't going up. They don't survive the relegation battle. I don't have the points in front of me, but I think that a player like Ferreira or like Pepe, when he was still with FC Dallas, I think he's more important than the guy who's in the middle of the relegation fight to stay in the Premier League and not getting the minutes.
Yeah, I'm more meant to, like, we've seen like Jassy Zardes out there, or even I like Kellen Acosta, but like, Kellen Acosta, Christian Roldan, these like, MLS lifers that get minutes under Berhalter. The one that stands out was obviously, like, we see it all the time, even when oh my god, like Wondolowski. Wondolowski was amazing with the Earthquake, MLS Hall of Fame. But like, just because you're scoring goals for San Jose Earthquakes doesn't mean you're gonna be. When you go up against, the Portugals, Italy's, Germany's of the world, like, I want talent. I don't care what minutes you're getting in the MLS.
It's true. It's fair.
Yeah. All right. So I think we're getting there. Still nervous. I don't think I'm not gonna take a sigh of relief until we're qualified. Hopefully, you win against Mexico, you win against Panama, and that last game doesn't mean anything. That's obviously pie in the sky, best case scenario. But I'm nervous. I'm still nervous. I'm going to be nervous for at least the next week and a half. yeah, by the end of the month, we'll know if the United States qualifies directly, if they're in the play-in game, or if, I mean, worst comes to worst, they have a chance to fall completely out of it. I don't think that happens.
Oh my God.
But we said I didn't think that was going to happen 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's all the soccer we have, unless you want to go on any random German team rants, or you want to talk Leon, or CONCACAF Champions League. I'll let you run whatever you want to run. Otherwise, we could get to the battle of the bands real quick, because I know people have been asking me about it. But any more soccer talk?
I got two things. First one, Red Stars won 3-1 tonight. They
Okay,
look
good.
super effective. I mean, this is the first preseason game. There is no reason to get overly excited about preseason, but they looked good. Pew scored. Pew wasn't scoring. I think she finally has found her form, and I'm really excited to see what that means, because I was worried we didn't have care and we don't have a press anymore, so we need someone to score that isn't like us kicking it off their defenders.
Mm-hmm.
Then one other thing, I know you said no Barca talk, but my boy Sebas, he asked me, he said, after seeing the display put on by Barca, can it be said that Barca has recovered their DNA in regards to Xavi taking over?
So that's exactly what I sent. So shout out one of our good buddies, Johnny and I buddies, Damien. He's a huge Barca fan. He's always known me as a Real Madrid fan. We go back and forth, like we're not nothing like malintended or anything malicious, but we go back and forth. It's friendly banter. He texted me today, and I told him, like, you should be happy with what Xavi's doing. They have regained their form. I said, like, they're playing Barca soccer again, and it's not exactly Pep Guardiola's tiki-taki. People are comparing it online to it. It's very different. I think Xavi is a much more methodical in the way he's like building out of the back and stuff like that, and obviously Pep was too. But yes, what worries me is, it seems like they've recovered from their slump and the lack of Messi and their sanctions and like their legal issues and them not being able to sign players. I think they did the right thing in hiring from within with Xavi. That was smart. And I think they got their identity back. I think it's still going to take a little bit. I would say maybe 12 to 18 months for them to really get back into contentions with like the top teams in Europe. For this year at least, both Real Madrid and Barca, I wouldn't consider them anywhere like top 5. Like they're not of like the Bayerns, the PSGs, even Chelsea and Liverpool this year in Champions League at least. But yeah, man, obviously it pains me to mention it, but Barca looks like they're back.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I want to say I'm really excited for Xavi, he straightened Dest out. Dest is starting to look like he can defend.
Yeah.
Which was not something he could do in December. Yeah. Like, it was like he could only go forward from like a wingback position. And like he is very much can still only do that, but like he runs back. He tries to make defensive plays. I've seen he's promising. I mean, he's hurt now, obviously, but like Xavi did that thing where he was like, he shit talked him on like Chingarito or something. And like the next week, like after being on the bench, he gets lucky. Someone gets hurt and he came out and showed up. So.
Yeah, no, I think realistically, like Dest is one of these guys where it's like the longer he stays in Barca, just like the better he's going to be. And now that Xavi seems to be trusting him and stuff like that, like you're learning from the best. Like you can't get any better than where you're at. So yeah, man, the future's bright for him and the future's bright for the United States men's national team. It's exciting to see where this team will be. Not just this year. Obviously, we want to get to December. We want to get to Qatar. Am I saying Qatar? Qatar or Qatar? I've heard it both
ways. Either one works. My foreign policy teacher in school was always like Qatar, but everyone else says Qatar. There's like a bunch of different ways you can pronounce it.
Either way, we just got to get to December and have some fun. It's been a long 4 years, at least for me personally. It's like you'd think from where they started back in '94, like when the World Cup was here, and like the future is soccer. We've heard that the future is soccer for 30 years at this point. But if they could build off, the Dest, the McKinneys, the Pulisic, the Reynas, there is a bright future for them. And realistically, it all leads up to 2026, where the World Cup is in, United States, Canada, Mexico. That's where like it's put up or shut up time. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm excited. Obviously, I'm like we talked about. Where I'm nervous. I'm nervous as hell. But the overarching theme is I'm very excited for where this team is headed.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm ready to call into sick work in December.
So I haven't even done the math yet. I'm worried about Mexico, Panama, and Costa Rica for the time being, but I don't know what the time difference is over there. What time are we going to be watching games?
So I think it's
if we're watching games, ahead. I should say, knock on wood. What time are we going to watching games? If we're watching games,
it's an 8-hour time difference. So when they were playing all of the Club World Cup games, the big ones were at like 1 or 2 or 1 in the afternoon at the latest. I think they're all at like noon. So it'll probably be like a 6 a.m. to noon thing. I'm gonna have to get up at 4 a.m. one day to watch us play like some small
that's what it
island.
wasn't when it was in South Korea. That's like it was like 4 in the morning, 6 in the morning, 9 in the morning, or whatever. Like that was rough. And my whole for the longest time for all of the World Cups, like my claim to fame was like I've never missed a game. Like I'll DVR them. I used to VHS every single World Cup game, either on like when it was ESPN or even Telemundo or Univision. Ever since the 94 one, I would record them all or DVR them all. And I've never missed a World Cup game for like since 94. So that's what I was excited about. I'm like, obviously, knock on wood, if and when we get there, I'm excited. It should be fun.
Yep.
All right. That's enough soccer talk for today. I mean, we're 46 minutes in. This is the longest we've talked soccer in at least a year as the Chicago Sports Bums. We did that one podcast for the Euros, right? It was the Euro 2020s, but it was played in 2021. And we did a podcast on that. We're going to try to bring more soccer podcast in the fold. Obviously, World Cup qualifying, and then we'll talk leading up to the World Cup. Even if the MLS keeps rolling and the fire keeps rolling, we'll talk a little fire. So, yeah, this isn't the last year. You're not going to wait a year to hear soccer talk on the Chicago Sports Bums. So we're going to try to keep this, if it's not, semi-annually, maybe quarterly or every month or two. But, yeah, so the last thing I had, and it was something we've had tremendous success. I want to thank everybody that's voted as the Battle of the Bands bracket tournament. I got my sheet out. It's been really fun. Last year was obviously the first year we did it with Comic Book Madness. We did best comic book characters last year, and slowly but surely we got people voting and kind of like commenting and like messaging me and stuff like that. So what we've been happy with, especially this year, was even the first round of the tournament, we had more votes this first round than we did like all of last tournament. So it's like growing. It's a little bit of, like people are into it and stuff like that. So I've got my sheet out. Billy, do you have any overarching themes or anything you want to talk about the Battle of the Bands? Because I know people have been hot about it. I've been getting DMs and messages about matchups and like why is this band not in it and stuff like that. And I have answers for all of you. But for now, I just want to thank everybody for voting, and I want to get your thoughts on it.
My first thought was I thought that Vampire Weekend was going to upset Led Zeppelin. I love Led Zeppelin, first and foremost. Let me tell everyone that. But I love Vampire Weekend more. And I thought Vampire Weekend had it, and they got upset. My other thing was I thought Kings of Leon was going to beat out Pink Floyd. And I think Pink Floyd goes all the way to win the tournament. Honestly, they're the best band on there. But those are my thoughts. I just there was a lot of like a very diverse amount of different bands that survived. They weren't all new. They weren't all old. So,
yeah. So what has been interesting, at least for me, was whenever we put the podcast out and like obviously our Twitter and our Instagram, we're slowly building the Instagram, but our Twitter is our bread and butter, like where Jason runs the CSB Twitter account and I'll help him whenever you see like GIFs or embedded videos or any like memes, that's me. But like the day-to-day, like, talking about the White Sox or anything, that's all Jason. And then I got my Twitter feed. That's where we do our bread and butter. So realistically, like most of our followers are from Twitter, but like this Battle of the Bands has been interesting to see like who's really listening or who's really watching or who's like feedback, because I thought we skewed younger at our demographic. I really thought like there was who was the band I was like for sure like what was it? Oh, like I thought like maybe Gorillas would upset Aerosmith, or Weezer and Nirvana were shockingly close in the beginning stages, like the first 3-4 hours. It was a dead heat, and then Nirvana kind of smoked them. And then like, so I'm like, oh, maybe I thought, especially like my wife and like Christy, your wife, my sister, all like their group of friends, and like My Chemical Romance, I thought really had a shot of upsetting Rolling Stones. Not even close. Like the big bands they carry so much weight and gravitas to them. I thought like the younger bands were going to do better, and they really haven't. There has been some upsets. Blink-182 beat Smashing Pumpkins pretty easily. Like it wasn't necessarily close. I thought that was going to be really close. So let's just get I told
Blink-182 is your dark horse of the tournament. If we learned anything from the wedding, pop punk, it's gonna win.
I think pop punk is at a perfect stage now, where it's like it's hitting like the nostalgia factor now. Like Blink-182 is one of these bands that's been around for a good amount of time, where like they still have a young following, but they also have like 40-year-olds like me that are like, I'm into Blink-182 and Green Day. I think both Green Day and Blink-182 have the possibility of having like really good showings in this. So I'll talk about the matchups right now real quick, the results. I don't have tonight's matchups because the polls just closed, and obviously we're recording. So I will have those out later tonight, and then tomorrow morning I'll post the whole bracket. But once again, I want to thank everybody for voting, and I'll just shoot these out real quick, and you could just comment on either the band or the matchup that you thought stood out. Led Zeppelin, they rolled. They were like, I think it was like 90% Zeppelin. Vampire Weekend, like you said, I thought could have maybe made some noise, but not really. 9 Inch Nails beat Leonard Skinner. Aerosmith beat Gorillaz pretty easily. This is a matchup I thought the seeding, for those that don't know, so how we did this was I made a like list of like 100 bands, and basically I did like record sales, popularity through the years, streaming, and just a bunch of different categories. Bunched them all in by decade, so from the 60s up until now, and just made a list of like the most popular bands of the last 60 years or so. What is it? 60s. Oof. Do the math.
Yeah.
So, and then from there, Johnny, who was another one of the Chicago sports bums, he was the one that aggregated and did the seeding. So I'm like, I have 100 bands. We have to get them down to 64 and make this tournament. And then so he did the best he could do. I think it skews a little towards a lot of respect to the older bands, and rightfully so. Obviously, like the top 4 seeds are, heavy hitters. But I thought we could have used a couple more newer bands. There was Paramore out there that I think could have brought in a younger vote. But for the most part, I thought he did about as good of a job he could have done, given like the list I gave him. And I know people were complaining, like, where's the Ramones? And where's like, there's a couple bands where it's like, where are these people? Like, it was borderline impossible to figure out and cut the list from 100 bands to 64. But yeah, so let me run down this real quick again. I think I'm rambling a little bit, but yeah. So Zeppelin beat Vampire Weekend pretty easily. 9 Inch Nails beat Skinner. Aerosmith beat Gorillaz. This matchup I thought was gonna be close. I really like Styx as a band. Eagles roll them. Eagles is a really good band. Don't get me wrong, but they smoked them. Van Halen smoked Boston, and then the first real upset, the White Stripes beat the Beach Boys. I think the overall percentages were like 85-15. The White Stripes and Jack White just smoked them. Oasis and REM came down to, no kidding, I think it was 4 votes. It was really, really close. I've talked about it on the podcast. I am a huge Oasis fan. I'm an Oasis fanboy. I thought they were going to roll, especially like what we talked about, like our demographic and our age and fans and stuff like that. And no, man, REM put up a really good fight. So that was really close. And then Nirvana beat Weezer handedly. The biggest upset, or not biggest upset, the biggest blowout of the tournament, Queen beat the Black Keys.
Yeah.
Like, I knew that was going to happen, but it was just shocking. I think of all the voters, and we had a good amount, I think 4 people voted for the Black Keys. Like, Queen like just smoked them. I think it was something like 97%, 95%, or even more, because it was only 4 votes. It was like 99% Queen.
They're like a liberal arts college somewhere in the middle of the United States that no one's heard about. They got seeded in that one round before. They got lucky too.
Yeah, they played in the playing game, and I like the Black Keys. Yeah. I think they're a really good band.
Yeah.
But I mean, Queen was. I think Queen has a possibility of just steamrolling everybody. So it'll be interesting. Def Leppard and the Strokes. This is one I was happy with. I like the Strokes a lot. I've liked the Strokes for a long time. So they won. Pearl Jam and Depeche Mode wasn't really close. Pearl Jam beat them. The first, it's not an upset on the brackets, but I got so many DMs saying, how did Rage Against the Machine lose to Chicago? I think Chicago's the better band. I think people our age have like an affinity for Rage Against the Machine. But Chicago is a really, really good top to bottom band. So do you have any?
I mean, go sit down, listen to their first album, Chicago Transit Authority, and I think it beats out I'm going to say it, I'm going to piss off a lot of people, every Rage Against the Machine's album. Even their best of album.
I got so many DMs, even from Jason. Jason's a huge Rage fan, and he was like, how did Rage lose? And I was like, Chicago's a fucking good band, man. And the votes showed it. The first upset of mine, not in the seeding, but I really thought Foo Fighters were going to beat Red Hot Chili Peppers. And that was the one matchup I got the most DMs about. Are like, how did you put these two like first round? Why are they playing first round? This should have been like a Elite 8 matchup. I got so many of these, and it was dead even. It was 50-50 up until like 8 p.m. That night. I thought Foo Fighters were I thought they were going to beat Peppers. I complained about the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I had this DM with one of our buddies, was like, if shout out Fishbones is watching live.
Hey.
I think the Red Hot Chili Peppers are a really, really good band musically. I don't think their lyrics make much sense at all. It's like a Dr. Seuss book. I make that joke all the time, but it's basically a Dr. Seuss book where like Anthony Kiedis is rhyming words just to rhyme them. For the most part, I thought Foo Fighters were going to win handedly, and they didn't. And what I thought when I got my DMs, I think Foo Fighters is wearing thin on people. They were good for a long, long time, but their last couple of albums and now like this horror music comedy movie that they came out with and stuff like that, I think they're wearing thin on people. So that was kind of something that was shocking. Obviously the seating was right. Johnny nailed it. Peppers went through, but Foo Fighters out in the first
round. They got
that
Weezer effect. Weezer, stop making albums. If you're watching this, please.
Yeah, I like Weezer. So and then the next one, so the next one I got DMs about was like 2 of the most hated bands possibly ever. And I'm a big U2 fan. I like U2. I grew up on them. Shout out Uncle Paul. He's the one that really got me into U2 at a very young age. For I don't know how, for maybe 20 years in my soccer playing career, My pregame song right before we went on the field was Sunday Bloody Sunday. That was my pump up song to get me like fired up and stuff like that. So I'm a U2 fan, but I know a lot of people, they rub people the wrong way. And so does Imagine Dragons. I feel like Imagine Dragons are getting to the point where it's like they're the new Nickelback, where it's like people are fed up with the commercials and like they're in the movies and stuff like that. So I got a bunch of DMs like, I hate both of these bands, but U2 went through pretty easily. Do you have any you have any thoughts on U2? Or I know they rub people the wrong way.
I used to hate U2. I used to, I don't like Taylor Swift. They were on par with each other. It's like, I know. I'm going to get canceled right now.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah. But they've grown on me. Sunday Bloody Sunday is a banger. Sunday Bloody Sunday is better than Sunday Bloody Sunday is better than I'd say every single, like all of the combination of Imagine Dragons like discography. Like I just like they make good classic music. Like I can't.
So yeah, so U2 beat them pretty easily. And then like I said, the first I was happy about this upset was Blink-182 beating Smashing Pumpkins. One of my first albums ever was Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. That was Christmas of, I don't know, 95, 96, 97. Whenever that album came out was when I got a CD player and like a couple CDs for Christmas. And I remember vividly getting Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness as a stocking stuffer. I open it, excited about it. My dad looks at it. One of the song names is Fuck You. And it's like, what is this? That was about as excited as I got. I was like, I'm in trouble now. This was like in like 5th, 6th grade. But Blink won. Obviously, if people know me, I'm a huge pop punk fan. So I was happy that happened. And then AC/DC killed Mumford & Sons. I like Mumford & Sons, but realistically, AC/DC slaps. Like if you're, at a Sox game, any stadium in sports, they're on, and obviously, rightfully so, they kicked ass. The next seeding, I got big time complaints about, and this was on purpose. If you guys are fan of the Bumpcast and fan of the Chicago Sports Bums, we've had an argument about Tom Petty and the Beatles for a good, probably 10 years now, that me and Jason tell Johnny that Tom Petty is better than the Beatles. Obviously, it started off kind of like facetiously, like as a joke, kind of to get into Johnny's skin. And somehow along the way, I like drank my own Kool-Aid and said, I really do think this is true. I became a huge Petty fan. I love Tom Petty, but realistically, he shouldn't have been a 16 seed. He probably could have been a 3, 4, 5 seed. But we did this on purpose just to finally end that argument, or at least Johnny did it on purpose to end that argument. And the Beatles killed him. I mean, I knew it was going to happen. I was hoping for the upset just to kind of rub it in his face, but the Beatles killed him. The next matchup, Genesis versus Coldplay. This is the only matchup in the tournament. Ended in a tie. We had, votes from Twitter, from the Survey Monkey, all combined 50-50, dead even. So what happened was I got a message from my cousin saying, I didn't get the vote. I've been voting every day, and I forgot to vote on Saturday when this matchup came out. I called her after polls were closed, and I'm like, "You're going to be the deciding vote. If you pick Coldplay, Coldplay goes through. If Genesis goes through." She didn't answer. So what I had to do, and people might be pissed, I flipped a coin. I was like, "What am I supposed to do? I got to get these matchups out, and I'm going to flip a coin." So Coldplay won by the skin of their teeth, basically. So that was that matchup. Fleetwood Mac killed. I think Fleetwood Mac, looking forward a little bit in the tournament, they have a shot of beating the Beatles. I really like Fleetwood Mac. I think a lot of people do. I'm not the biggest Beatles fan, and hopefully if you guys are listening, I just got low battery because I'm not plugged in. All right, let's run through this. CCR killed Heart. Journey killed Kiss. I thought Kiss being a 6 seed was one of the only things. I can't complain much with Johnny's seeding. It was like we said, an impossible task. I knew that was going to happen. So Journey killed Kiss, and then The Doors killed Muse. Guns N' Roses killed The Police, and then Pink Floyd and Kings of Leon was not even close. It wasn't even close. That's it for the tournament. I don't have today's matchups just because we're recording as the polls close. So I'm going to go back. I got to count all the Twitter polls and then count all the SurveyMonkey polls. I'll post a quick video tomorrow morning about those results. But realistically, just from like early polling, now I sound like a freaking, who's that guy on CNN with the khakis and the glasses?
Kornacki.
And now I sound like Kornacki. Yeah. Like early polling is suggesting Rolling Stones killing My Chemical Romance. Green Day is beating Soundgarden pretty handedly. Radiohead was winning. The only upset, or at least big upset, 2 upsets coming up, unless something changed within the last hour and a half. Linkin Park killed Rush. They really beat them pretty handedly. And then the Killers are beating Metallica. I know, shout out Joey P. He was very, very upset. But the Killers are beating Metallica, which I'm happy about. I think I like the Killers. Black Sabbath is killing Evanescence. Dave Matthews Band and the Cure. I don't have too close to call, if you will. That's going to be something I'll talk to you guys about in the morning. And then the Who killed Arcade Fire. But realistically, I want to thank everyone that voted. Like you said, like more people are voting for this poll than like all of last year. And that's, I mean, obviously we're slowly growing the brand and slowly gaining followers. So that has something to do with it, but it's been fun so far. Any thoughts? I feel like I've been rambling for 15 minutes.
No. No thoughts, only vibes. Yeah.
So we're going to take a break for the polling, at least for Monday and Tuesday. And then we're going to come out and re-release the next matchups. I think Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We might double them up. So we still have 8 questions per bracket. We'll figure it out. But we want to thank everybody watching. We want to thank everybody voting. We want to thank everybody commenting. Shout out Fishbones. This was our first live show. We really didn't know how this was going to turn out. This is my first time using this software. So I want to thank everybody watching, everybody commenting. Billy, thank you for coming on. We talked soccer. We're going to do this more often, like we said. And we said no. Yes. Anybody but Dave Matthews Band. It's gonna be close.
We're in the same boat, Fishbones.
Yes. All right. So an hour and 7 minutes in, now the comments are coming hot and heavy.
Now they're pouring in.
Yeah, now they're pouring in. So maybe we're just gonna run this. Talk about how you got that jersey, because it's a really cool story.
So I signed up for a contest on Instagram, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you never win the Chicago Fire contest. Like it's gonna be some like random jagoff, whatever." And then they hit me up and they're like, "Hey, you won. Send us your address." So this is in October. I send them my address and I'm like, "Ship it out." It never shipped to my apartment. So I like message them, and they went through. They just got you should follow them. Their new social media manager. She's great. She gets back to me and then shipped it to your parents' house. And it was just like, it's a game worn jersey. It is autographed, if you can see it, by Granitza. It's like a very old, like Chicago soccer team. They're probably like the first big team. They won some indoor tournaments. They won some like regular tournaments. They won the soccer bowl, I think, in like the 80s.
Jose knows this thing. I think Fishbones too. We're old.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously anytime you see Sting gear, I mean, it's freaking awesome. I remember for the longest time, me and Johnny were looking for Sting, like just their plain t-shirts. And now I think you can get them on Amazon. Yeah. For the longest time, like you couldn't find them. So yeah. That jersey's awesome. I had
to. Well, it was a proper show to do it. This is on the Sports Bums. I rarely get to be on the Sports Bums, so if I'm going to do it, dress to the nines. First soccer pod in a year, basically. Yeah. I had to bring out the United States men's national team shirt, and I told Billy before the podcast started, I cannot stand up because this is basically one of those like Ezekiel Elliott halter tops now. It's a tight squeeze. It looks good sitting down, and I might wear it for a couple more podcasts. But anytime you won't catch me in public, at least not anytime soon, with the jersey. But yeah, shout out Fishbone, shout out Jose, shout out anybody watching. I know Julie
and Scarlett were watching for a little
Scarlett.
bit. We've got 6 viewers live, so I mean that's more than I expected. And I know people were jumping on and off throughout the show. We've gone for an hour and 10 minutes. I thought for sure, like we're gonna talk soccer. It might be a half-hour show.
But I thought it was gonna be quick.
But it was fun. We'll do this more often. We talked about how realistically, what we want to do. We're still recording the show, our podcast, like normal Sundays. You'll get it on Monday mornings. But whenever news breaks, whenever there's a big White Sox game, Bears post-game shows, even during the World Cup, any big time games or tournaments or anything like that, this is a nice avenue to just go live. You could catch us on Facebook. We'll be on YouTube. We're going to start growing the YouTube channel. And then eventually what we can do is link all of these videos together. So it'll be on our Twitter feed as well. And it'll be fun. And what I like about this is we're getting live interactions with Fishbones, with Jose, with everybody. So especially during Bears games, post-game shows and stuff like that, people are hot. People are mad typically during Sunday afternoons. So if you want to complain about the Bears, you want to do, yes, Jose, great idea. World Cup draw. We'll for sure do 100%. A World Cup draw one. So yeah, we're going to keep doing these lives. This was the first one. We didn't know how it was going to go. I think it went well. I might pat myself on the back, Barry Horowitz style. I think it worked out well. I didn't know how to use the graphics or the banners. Everything seemed to be going fairly smoothly. So before we wrap up, I want to thank you, Billy. I'm the last bum standing. Obviously, Johnny's on sabbatical. Jason's on vacation. If you guys follow Jason on Instagram, he was on some back alley horse racing casino in the Puerto Rico. Like, he might not make it back. He's either gonna make it back broke or he might not make it back alive. It looked awesome. I'm not saying it was bad by any means. It looked like a fun time. But when I saw that casino on Instagram, I was like, holy shit, he's somewhere. So yeah, I was all alone on a Sunday. I thought, what a better time to bring back the soccer pod, and I think it worked out. So thank you, Billy. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Fishbones. Thank you, everybody, for listening, watching. And we'll catch you next week back to our normal schedule with the Bumcast. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.